Hey, what's up, guys? This is Tron here, and I'm still in Sanya, Hainan. The weather here is just gorgeous, and I don't want to go back to the mainland. So, today I want to talk about the work culture in China versus the work culture back in the US and how it differs between the two countries. So, I think this video will be helpful for some of you guys who are considering moving to China for a job. So, a little bit of background about me. I moved to China in 2016 for a chemical engineering job at a Chinese company based in Yantai of Shandong province. So I've worked in a corporate environment for the past 5 years for a local company, and I think I have a pretty good grasp of the work culture in China. In this video, I want to highlight five main differences between Chinese work culture versus American work culture. Okay, so the first main difference is the method of communication. In the US, the main method of communication is email. So at work, you would receive a lot of emails, and you're expected to respond to these work emails at your convenience or as early as possible. However, in China, the main method of work communication is WeChat. So if you don't know what WeChat is, it's a messaging software similar to WhatsApp, but it's much more powerful than WhatsApp because you can use WeChat to pay, to call taxis, to book flights, essentially to do everything. And it's the main communication tool, so the main messaging tool among friends, family members, and colleagues, work colleagues here in China. So now what this means is you're mixing your personal life with work life by using the same software. And using WeChat to work can be a pain because you're always dragged into these WeChat work groups, which are composed of maybe your colleagues, your customers, your boss, and you're expected to respond to these messages right away. And if you don't, then they will start calling your phone. And speaking of calling, okay, calling in China it's also very frequent compared to the U.S. So you get a lot of phone calls in addition to WeChat messages because I find that Chinese people are sometimes very impatient and they want the answer right away. So they would not wait for your email response. So they would first, you know, message you via WeChat to see if you respond right away, and if you don't, they will call you. Okay, and this can get very annoying over time because you get a lot of phone calls, a lot of WeChat messages that you're expected to respond right away, and you become overwhelmed. Or in my case, I become trained to stare at my phone pretty much all day. Okay, so in conclusion, in the US, the order of work communication would be email, and then probably text messages, and then phone call. Whereas in China, it would be WeChat, then phone call, and lastly, email for more important stuff that needs to be written down. Okay, so the second main difference in the work culture between China and the US is overtime. So in the US, you do have overtime, but I guess it depends on the job that you have. But in China, it seems like everyone has overtime regardless of what you do. Okay, so the typical working hours in China are from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6. However, after 5 or after 6, you're still sort of expected to be on call. What this means is that you'll get WeChat messages, you'll get phone calls, and sometimes you'll have meetings. So it does get annoying if you have a meeting lined up at 10 p.m. at night. Moreover, in some industries, for example, in IT, people are expected to stay in the office until 9 or 10 p.m. Even though you may not have that much work because it's just the work culture to stay in the office. And in many industries, typically you have to work one day out of the weekend. So it's very normal to work 6 days a week here in China. Oh, and if you're a salary worker, you do not get any extra pay. All right, so the third difference between the work culture in China versus the US is the work pace. So in China, it's a very fast-paced environment. You're expected to generate results or commercialize products right away. While this does seem very good on paper, it does have some disadvantages. The main disadvantage when you're rushing a product out is that you don't really understand the fundamentals because you're just trying to commercialize a product in a very rushed time frame. So if you do this, then sometimes you come out with inferior products, and you need to provide a lot of customer support for your product after it becomes commercial. There's actually a phrase in China for these products. It's called 差不多. Okay, so we use it a lot in China because you're always under, very tight time frames. So you're always coming up with 差不多 products. So products that are good enough uh, for use. Okay, so that's why a lot of people, think Chinese products are inferior to, for example, Western products, even Chinese citizens. However, I do want to know that there are some very good high quality Chinese products. For example, from the company that I used to work for, um, they make very good chemical products because they do take the time to understand the fundamental process, the fundamental design of reactors to generate these high quality products. Also, there are other high quality tech products, okay, coming out of China. For example, DJI is it's a very good company, and just a side note, I have a new DJI camera coming soon, so I'll be using that to film some of my videos. Okay, the fourth difference between the work culture in China versus the U.S. is the hierarchy in your company. Okay, so what this means is that typically you don't call people by their first names as you would back in the US. If someone is higher up, then you would have to call them by their title. For example, if they are a doctor, so a PhD, the scientist, you would have to call them doctor, whatever. If they are the general manager, you have to call them, general manager Lee or whatever. Okay, you can only call people by their first name if they are below you. For example, if they are your direct reports, you can call them by their first name, and it's very normal, and they won't get mad. However, if you call someone higher up, or someone even at the same level as you by their first name, they will get pissed at you. Okay, so the last difference between the work culture in China and the US is vacation. In the US, there are no mandatory vacation days. And it really depends on the company that you work for, but typically you will get somewhere around 10 to maybe 20 days off per year, and in addition to national holidays. In China, there are mandatory vacation days, and it is 5 days if you have less than 10 years of work experience, and 10 days if you have more than 10 years of work experience, and I think it goes up to 15 days if you have over 15 or 20 years of work experience. So mandatory vacation days are a good thing, but I think Chinese companies just abuse the policies set by the government because they typically just give you the minimum number of days required by the government. For example, in my former company, they would give new college grads just 5 days of vacation per year, and it would just be 5 days until they reach 10 years of work experience. Also, depending on your company, your team, and your manager, it is sometimes frowned upon to take a lot of vacation days clustered together. For example, if you only have 5 days of vacation and you want to take the whole week off, you probably will not get approval from your manager because there will be no one to take over your work for that week. And if you're lucky enough to get your week-long vacation approved, you would still get work messages and phone calls, and you would have to respond to them while you're on vacation. So I think this is very different compared to the US, because in the US, if you're on a 1 week or 2 week vacation, you can just set your email to auto respond. If it's very urgent, maybe someone will call you, but in non-urgent cases, they will just wait until you come back from vacation to respond to those emails. But in China, uh, as I mentioned before, work is done via WeChat, phone calls, so they will still disturb you regardless whether you're on vacation or not. So lastly, in China, you do have a lot of national holidays, more so than in the US. So we do get two 1 week long vacations, one in October for national holiday, and one in February for Chinese New Year or Spring Festival. But in reality, those 1 week long holidays are just 3 days off. Okay, 3 days off, and you have to make up the 2 days off on one of the weekends. Okay, so you get 5 days on paper you get 5 days off, but in reality you get 3 days off, and then you have to make up the 2 days on one of the weekend days. Alright guys, I hope you guys got a good sense of what the work culture is like in China versus the US. I do not regret coming to China to work in the past 5 years, because I did learn a lot working in China in this really fast-paced environment. I don't think I would have gotten the same experience if I just stayed in the US and worked. If you guys are thinking of coming to China to work and have further questions, feel free to ask those questions in the comment section below. And also remember to subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. I'll see you guys next time.